listening to I Feel For You. I'm Dionne, a creative coach, a yoga, movement and meditation teacher, student, writer, DJ, all the hats. We're all wearing hats. Accessories unlimited. Polymaths unite. On asking for what you want. It's a bullish topic, huh? Well, it's certainly one that makes me want to hide and shrink away. How dare I ask for what I actually want in this life? Who am I to feel entitled to ask? Surely the point of life is to struggle and to do it all, alone. The martyr, a familiar role. And like many of us, I wasn't taught that asking for help was something that applied to me. I was expected to be strong, to do it all, not to be scared of challenges, and to have a concrete, solid work ethic. I appreciate those members of family that showed me how to graft and to make things happen and to survive against the odds. But I find myself at 38 years old facing questions about what it's all been for. Of course, I don't regret a thing. Well, perhaps the odd dodgy dance with codependent narcissists in my time, but really and truly, it's all led me to this point. Plus, I can be a bit of a slow learner in that respect. It can take me a while to learn some lessons, particularly related to said narcissists. And I think Maya Angelou's sage advice comes in handy here. When people show you who they are, believe them. But anyway, back to the topic. Why is it so hard to ask for help? Is it social conditioning? Is it harder to ask for help if you face any intersection of disadvantage? Are you more prone to try to do it all against the odds, despite resistance, and simply because so many people expect that you can't? I don't know about you, but I find the tension of reaching out to ask for help a very real one. It's physical. It locks up my jaw and my throat gets tight. Center of communication. Hello. I feel it, yet still try to go in against the resistance. Why? Well, because it makes me weak, surely, to ask for help or to even admit that I need help. Perhaps I care what people will think. That's true. I'm constantly considering other people. Because we will be judged regardless, right? Perhaps it's the feeling that I don't want to be a burden that prevents me from reaching out. The worry that someone will not be able to help me. The fear that they will help me, but not in the way I want or need. Do you know what I mean? The tension is real, and the consequences of being out of practice of asking for help has called for an intervention. So if you are struggling with the same fate, I wonder if this will help you too. I'm calling this segment Ways to Explore How to Ask for Help. And I'm considering some kind of NAF theme intro here. So I think the most important factor in retraining ourselves to ask for help is to recognize the intricate balance of give and take. I've spoken about this a lot in the past, and I will link you to some show notes, but essentially it's about balance. Relationships, which are about balance too, right? It's knowing and trusting that we cannot do it all alone. It's impossible, and we will surely fail. Perhaps that lies at the heart of my self-sabotage when it comes to asking for help. I don't know about you. We're human, fallible, and limited with our resources. We're also social creatures and creatures of habit, which is good news for when we want to make a change or quit doing something or start something new. We already know about balance. I mean, ask the body. It instinctively knows how to hold us. If we walk, it's managing a really complex and constant extreme shift in balance and gravity and, well, human meat and bone. Although we are moving intentionally when we walk, the motor is really just balance in action. The same with standing still on 2 feet. I mean, maybe you can try it now. We can do it together. Even though we're standing, we're still balancing in space. And even if you're sitting down right now or horizontal, it's still the same principle. So I like to take a deep breath and just notice what part of me is connected to the floor. Maybe you can do that with me now. Just notice your outline in space. And if that feels comfortable, perhaps you can slowly start to close your eyes. And if that's not comfortable, you can try this exercise squinting or looking at a spot that isn't moving in front of you. Just try and soften the muscles around your eyes. And notice the feeling. Notice the feeling of yourself in space. You might be able to feel little shifts, flickers, wobbles even. That's the body stabilizing itself, balancing. So even though you're standing or sitting or laying down, you're never really still, right? There's vibration at work in every moment. Movement is essentially balance, which is wild. And it kind of makes me question everything. And that's not even considering the fact that we are pulled energetically to a piece of rock that's hurtling through space at however many miles an hour. It's wild, you guys. Anyway, although a waffly tangent, I feel it's essential when considering how to learn to ask for what you want. It's a practice of give and take, the push and pull. And if you're doing more of one than the other, you're surely going to be imbalanced or even fall over. So maybe start to open your eyes if they're closed. So, recognize that healthy and balanced situations call for us to give and receive. Like breathing, you exhale and give, but you also need to inhale and receive. And how are you breathing right now, by the way? Are you breathing? Fully? Deliciously? I hope so. So there's a couple of little practices for you in giving and receiving to play with. So let's move on to another way to explore asking for help. Permission. Yeah, that old chestnut. How does that word sound to you? Does it aggravate those little hairs bristling at the back of your neck? Does it make you want to recoil and push back? It does for me. But to be honest, I think that's a lot to do with the feeling of burden of permission in my lifetime, i.e., you're not allowed to do this, you can't do that, you're doing it wrong. You're wrong for existing the way you do, and so on. Those are other stories. And my advice to you, if you're faced with that, is to watch a scene by the late and beloved Bernie Mac from House Party 2, which I will link for you in the show notes with expletives. So if you've got young kids in the room or just people who are sensitive to swearing, maybe just cover your ears, cover their ears. So motivational. And really and truly, if there's one thing that you take from this podcast today, is that you do not need permission to live your best life and to ask for what you need. You are entitled to ask for what you need. In fact, the world depends on it. Refer to my previous points about balance. Give and take. It's all a massive exchange of energy. So if needing permission to ask for what you want is holding you back from putting yourself out there, then here, let me give it to you. Here's your permission. Actually, who am I to even jest about that? You can give yourself your own damn permission. I'm sorry for swearing. Not really sorry about that, because I'm feeling passionate. Why? Because, dear listener, you are entitled. Those words were passed to me by my dear friend Ada, who told me in a moment of crisis on board a rickety boat in the middle of some Norwegian sea in January 2012, after hosting my first ever yoga retreat and being overwhelmed with fear at having to return to a bully boss at work in a yoga studio that following day. The problem was that the bully boss kept telling me I wasn't entitled, that I wasn't worthy, that everything I did was wrong, and that I should be submissive and give myself for free until they said so. Yep, cue a lot of free work despite being the poorest I've ever been, hungrily wandering the streets for loose change that people had dropped on the floor, and that's another story too, and yet still expected to give from my empty pot. You're entitled. Asking for help on that quest was not a factor to me. It wasn't even entertained, even though I was in desperate need of help and on the brink of being very homeless. Because I believed that someone else's needs and demands overruled giving myself permission to ask for help, I got really sick. In fact, that's when I met adrenal fatigue and my subsequent thyroid disorder. Hello! There's a wake-up call. I don't mean to scare you. You see, dear listener, I'm not trying to scare you into doing something you don't feel comfortable doing, but I hope that you can save yourself some valuable wasted time in holding off asking for what you want. We can sometimes get this idea in our heads, especially if we have been strong and we have carried it all, that other people's needs are more important than our own, especially if those people reinforce the message. But you must remember that you have the power to give yourself permission. Try it now. I give myself permission. Maybe say it. I know if you're in public it seems weird, but whatever. I give myself permission to say what intuitively comes next. I give myself permission to... It might be small or large. I give myself permission to live my own damn life on my own terms. I give myself permission to ask for help with. I give myself permission to ask even. Which leads me on to point 3. What's the worst that can happen if you just ask for what you want? Really and truly, we need to get over filling ourselves with the belief that the world will fall apart, that we will be publicly shamed or humiliated. And this comes from someone that's experienced both of those things. You will be okay. You really will. You will be okay. You really will. You will be okay. You really will. Because the worst that can happen if you ask for what you want is that the answer will be no. And if that's the case, it's all good, because then you know. What I mean is that you can act on that. You have some material to work with. If it's a no from someone, then ask someone else. Or change tactics. Or consider other alternatives. You get creative with the no's. You pick yourself up after however long you need to wallow, and you explore another way. Because the universe is constantly seeking balance, my friends. Things instinctively know how to return to balance. So you will too. What do you want? Feel it. Create the vision in your mind. See it done. Now go do it. Ask for what you want. I really hope that was useful for someone, and all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate all of your feedback on the podcast so far, and I'm ecstatic to hear that many of you are digging it and feeling it. And if that is you, if something resonates, please share the love with someone else who might need to hear it, who might dig it too. And if any of these episodes resonate with you at all, I would love to hear your thoughts. So I'd really appreciate if you could leave me some feedback on iTunes, maybe a rating, so that other people can find the podcast more easily. Also, feel free to share this podcast with those people who might resonate with it too. I think we're on a few platforms now, so depending on your preference, iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, SoundCloud, etc. Have a look at the show notes, ifeelforyoupodcast.com, and you'll get all of the links directly so that you can hopefully subscribe. And if you want more love notes from me to you, maybe you'd be interested in my digest. It's a weekly letter that I send out to people that's usually containing inspiration, music, ideas, links, memes, and so on. They tend to be things that I only share in the newsletter, so you'll get access to announcements of my events and offers and deals first before anyone else, because it's like a love club. Does that have a different connotation? I don't even know. But you can access the digest by going to dionne.space/digest. I'll put the link in the show notes for you. Also, this weekend, I'm going to be back in Oslo at Lila Yoga sharing my Bloom workshops. Last weekend was just epic in Bergen. So many of you great people showing up and just being open to experimentation, movement, explorations and adventures. So thank you for that. So Oslo, I think there's still some spaces. So if you feel like joining and you're up for some spring vibes, some good vibes, and to boost your confidence in your own yoga practice and to welcome in the spring with some unusual approaches, I guess that's what people have said, I don't know, and lots of feel good. You can access the link in the show notes, or you can go directly to my yoga website, which is spaceistheplace.yoga. And now I'm fully booked for coaching slots in May, which is crazy, unbelievable. Thank you so much. I am booking for June onwards. So if you're interested in working one-to-one with me, head to dionne.space/coaching. It's so great to dive deep into so many of these related topics and to support people to get back on their path, to get clearer, to get more focused, and to feel more free. I think that's really behind so much of what I do. And if you're interested in reading about that, maybe head to my blog, dionne.space/blog, where I'm updating still quite regularly. It's a mishmash of things from inspiration and the stuff that I'm studying at the moment and the insights that I'm having and just sharing my journey on this path. So if you're interested in that, head to dionne.space/blog. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. If you've got any questions, any thoughts, any comments, please do get in touch. I always love to hear from you. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and remember, ask for what you want. You shall receive. Farewell.